Have you ever wondered what really happens to your body when physical intimacy fades away after 60? Not just emotionally, but biologically, hormonally, physically. There's something most seniors don't realize. It's not just about pleasure or romance. When the bedroom grows silent, other parts of your body start whispering too, until one day, they scream. And by the time those symptoms show up, the damage is already quietly underway. My name is Dr. Edward. For over 30 years, I've worked with thousands of older adults, men and women alike, helping them restore their energy, strengthen their bodies, and maintain mental clarity and resilience at every stage of later life. And one of the most overlooked topics in healthy aging is intimacy, not just the kind in your heart, but the kind that happens or doesn't happen behind closed doors. And believe me when I say this, when intimacy disappears, the body doesn't just miss it, it suffers. In this video, I want to give you 3 essential truths that most people never hear. First, I'll reveal why your heart and blood vessels may pay the price when intimacy disappears after 60. Then, we'll talk about a surprising connection between sex and your brain, especially memory, sharpness, and even the risk of dementia. And finally, I'll walk you through something most seniors never connect to physical intimacy, but should: muscle loss, especially in the hips and legs. You deserve to understand how these changes are linked, and more importantly, what you can do if you've already noticed things slowing down. This isn't about pressure, it's about knowledge, and how your body speaks a language that few doctors ever explain. But before we begin, let me ask you something. When was the last time someone talked to you, really talked to you, about your body's need for touch? Not just as an emotional craving, but as a biological fuel. Because here's the truth, your body remembers things your mind tries to forget. The warmth of skin, the pulse of connection, the chemical chain reaction that sparks behind the scenes when you share closeness, even without full intercourse. And when that stops, entire systems start to slow. So now, let's begin with the first risk, one that no one expects to connect with intimacy: the risk to your heart. It started with John, a 68-year-old former firefighter who hadn't had intimacy in nearly a decade. He came to see me, not because of that, but because of his blood pressure. It had crept up slowly over the years. Despite a healthy diet and regular walks, his heart rate was erratic, and he felt fatigued, even though his blood work was decent. As we spoke, he confessed something with a sigh. "Doc, I've stopped caring about everything, really." That moment was a turning point for both of us. You see, when intimacy stops, so does a cascade of hormones that protect your cardiovascular health. Oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone, doesn't just help you feel bonded. It lowers cortisol, reduces inflammation, and helps keep blood vessels relaxed. Without it, stress rises, blood vessels stiffen, and the heart works harder. Studies show that people in physically affectionate relationships often have lower risk of hypertension and stroke. The absence of intimacy doesn't just feel isolating, it can biologically push your body toward disease. And it's not just the heart. The second area that quietly starts to suffer is your brain. And this part, well, it hits close to home for many. When I met Clara, she was 73, a retired school teacher, bright, sharp, full of warmth, but she was worried. "I forget things," she told me. "Not just where I put my keys, but conversations, names, feelings." She hadn't been with a partner in years, and when I asked her gently about intimacy, she blushed. Then she said, "Oh, doctor, I didn't think that mattered anymore at my age." But it does. Physical intimacy, even light, affectionate touch, stimulates areas of the brain responsible for memory and cognition. The act of intimacy increases dopamine and activates neuroplasticity, meaning your brain forms and strengthens new connections. Without it, cognitive decline can happen faster than expected. In fact, studies have shown that sexually active older adults perform better on memory tests and have lower risk of early dementia. It's not magic, it's biology. Your brain thrives on stimulation, emotional, intellectual, and yes, physical. If you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why you're there, if you've struggled to recall a word that was just on the tip of your tongue, you're not alone. But you might be missing something your body once gave your brain naturally. And the best part, reconnecting doesn't always mean a partner. Physical touch, massage, even affectionate companionship can reignite what's been dimmed. Still with me? If you've made it this far, I know this topic matters to you, and if you've ever felt embarrassed, awkward, or ashamed for wondering what happens to your body without intimacy, please know this: your questions are valid, and the next insight might surprise you even more. Let's talk about muscle strength, especially in your legs, hips, and lower back. Why? Because after 60, these muscles become critical for balance, stability, and independence. And when I see unexplained muscle loss, especially in people who eat well and exercise, I ask a question they never expect. How's your physical closeness these days? The link is subtle, but powerful. Intimacy stimulates testosterone and estrogen, even in older adults. These hormones don't just fuel desire. They preserve muscle mass, protect bone density, and keep joints lubricated. When intimacy stops, these hormone levels decline more sharply, leading to sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle that makes it harder to stand up from a chair, walk upstairs, or carry groceries. It's not about vanity, it's about vitality. I once worked with a couple in their early 70s, John and Maria. They had been emotionally close, but physically distant for years. After one heartfelt conversation, they decided to reconnect, not out of obligation, but out of curiosity. Within 6 months, John's back pain lessened. Maria reported stronger legs and better posture. And yes, we adjusted their diet and movement too. But what changed most was their chemistry, inside and out. You see, the body is designed for connection, not just to survive, but to thrive. And when you ignore this part of yourself, other parts start to quietly fade. In the next section, I'll share 2 more surprising risks of giving up on physical intimacy too soon. And one of them involves something we all deeply fear: loneliness, but not the kind you feel when you're alone. The kind that still lingers even when you're surrounded by others. Loneliness. It's such a small word, but it hides so many things beneath its surface. Regret, silence, memories that ache more than they comfort. And after 60, loneliness doesn't always come from being alone. Sometimes it comes from sharing a bed that feels cold, a life that's full of routines but empty of touch. Let me tell you about Helen. She was 69 when she came to see me, not for a medical condition, but for something deeper. "I just feel like I'm disappearing," she said. Her children had grown up. Her husband, though kind, had become distant. They still lived under the same roof, shared the same meals, even held hands in public. But at home, in the quiet hours, there was no closeness, no touch, no physical warmth. And over the years, it had begun to wear her down. Now here's what most people don't know. Lack of physical intimacy leads to a measurable increase in inflammatory markers in the body, especially in women. It's linked to increased levels of IL-6 and C-reactive protein, which are biological signals of inflammation. Chronic inflammation, in turn, is a root cause of nearly every major age-related disease: arthritis, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, even certain cancers. So what does this mean? It means when intimacy fades, loneliness can trigger inflammation, and inflammation triggers disease. But the worst part isn't just the physical decline, it's the way the body starts to lose its desire to thrive. Appetite decreases, sleep becomes fragile, joy becomes muted. And slowly, quietly, the light inside begins to dim. But here's what I told Helen, and what I'll tell you now. Your body hasn't given up on you. It still remembers. And even if you haven't touched someone in years, the biology of connection can still be awakened. Physical touch, yes. Even a warm hug, a gentle massage, or a tender kiss can reduce cortisol, increase endorphins, and make you feel human again. Let's not forget this truth. We are wired for connection. And when we reconnect, even gently, the flame inside returns. Now, before we move to the final insight, let me ask you a personal question. Have you ever felt that your self-worth, your sense of attractiveness or desirability has faded with age? That somehow, just because you're no longer in your 40s or 50s, your body is no longer deserving of love, attention, or even admiration? If so, you're not alone, but you're also not right. Because the fifth risk that comes from abandoning intimacy isn't physical, it's psychological. It's the slow erosion of self-esteem. I met Harold at 74, a widower for almost a decade. He had long stopped dating, socializing, or even dressing up. "I'm invisible now," he said with a soft laugh. "No one looks at old men." But what he didn't realize, and what I reminded him, was that desire is not exclusive to youth. And the belief that we lose our worth when we age is a lie sold by the young, not a truth owned by the wise. The absence of intimacy can chip away at confidence, body image, and emotional well-being. We begin to view ourselves as no longer desirable, no longer interesting, no longer worthy of passion, and over time, that belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We stop trying, we stop caring, we stop looking in the mirror with appreciation, and eventually we begin to shrink inside our own skin. But here's the remarkable thing. It only takes one spark to reignite that flame. For Harold, it was a small step, joining a seniors dance group. It had nothing to do with dating. It had everything to do with movement, laughter, and shared space. A few months later, his posture changed. He smiled more. He started wearing cologne again. And one day, he told me, "Doc, I don't feel invisible anymore." That's the power of connection. Whether you're married or single, widowed or divorced, it's never too late to reclaim the joy of being touched, seen, and loved. And no, I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about intimacy in the broadest sense. The hand on your back as you laugh, the arm around your shoulder when you cry, the eyes that meet yours with recognition. These moments aren't just emotional, they are biological fuel. If you've been quietly suffering, wondering why your energy has dropped, your joy has faded, or your body feels like it's aging faster than it should, maybe it's not just about diet or exercise, maybe it's about connection. And if you're still watching this, let me offer you something more than advice. Let me offer you permission. Permission to want more. Permission to remember that you are not past your prime. You are still here, still needed, still capable of love in all its forms. You don't have to rush into anything. You don't have to perform or prove, but you can take small steps back toward touch, toward affection, toward reclaiming the part of yourself that still longs to be fully alive. In the next video, we'll talk about how to do that, how to bring intimacy back into your life gently, respectfully, and safely, even if it's been years, even if you're afraid, because your body hasn't forgotten, and neither have you. But for now, I want to leave you with this. The moment you believe that touch no longer matters is the moment you begin to lose a part of yourself that was never meant to be silenced. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for a perfect time. Just begin, even with a hug, even with a glance, because aging doesn't mean you're fading. It means you're ripening. I want to share something with you now that most doctors won't talk about, not because it's untrue, but because it's uncomfortable. For many people over 60, the absence of intimacy isn't always a choice. It's a complex silence, one filled with old wounds, shifting bodies, lost confidence, and even fear. I remember Martha. She was 76, elegant, sharp, and carried herself with quiet grace. But beneath that grace was a lifetime of avoidance. When I gently asked her how long it had been since she felt physically close to someone, she looked down and whispered, "Since I was 42. I didn't push. Instead, I waited. A few moments later, she explained why. An early trauma, never truly healed, left her fearful of touch. She had buried it for decades, until her body began speaking louder than her silence. Chronic inflammation, digestive issues, unexplained fatigue. You see, the body doesn't forget, and neither does the heart. What we don't express emotionally, we often carry physically. I wasn't there to fix her, and I told her that. I was there to help her reclaim the parts of herself that had gone quiet, not through pressure, but through compassion. Slowly, she began practicing touch in safe ways, self-massage, gentle yoga, a pet therapy group, and later, the most beautiful of all, learning to hug her grandchildren without stiffness or fear. Martha didn't need sex. She needed connection, and that's the heart of what I'm telling you today. There's a myth, especially for men, that after 60, if they can't perform the same way they did at 30, they're broken. I've seen this belief destroy marriages, isolate good men, and rob them of years of closeness they still long for. But intimacy doesn't begin with performance. It begins with presence. One of my patients, Robert, came in at 71, devastated. He told me, "I avoid my wife now, not because I don't love her, but because I'm ashamed. Things don't work like they used to." He spoke those words with tears in his eyes, and I remember placing my hand gently on his shoulder and saying, "Robert, she's not asking you to be 30 again. She's asking you to show up." We worked together, not just medically, but emotionally. He and his wife began exploring what intimacy could look like in this new chapter. Slower, gentler, more attuned. What they found was not just satisfaction, but something richer, emotional healing. It was never about the act, it was about the closeness. If you're reading this and thinking, "But I live alone," or "My partner is gone," or "I'm too old for this conversation," let me speak directly to you. Intimacy is not reserved for couples. It is not reserved for youth. It is not even reserved for romance. It is about connection to yourself, to your body, and to others, in whatever way you can allow. I had a patient named Glenn, 82, who told me, "I live alone. I'm not interested in dating. But every week, I go to the community center, play cards, and hug people when they leave." He laughed, and then he said something profound. "It's not about sex. It's about not feeling like I'm fading." That's it. That's the entire point of this message. So let's pause here, and I'll ask you to do something simple. Place your hand over your own heart. Feel that rhythm? That's life. That's presence. That's your body saying, "I'm still here." You don't need anyone else to remind you that you matter, but sometimes letting someone in can make all the difference. If you're still reading, thank you. You've stayed with me through stories that might have stirred feelings you haven't touched in years. That means something. That means your body and spirit are still listening, and they are still asking, "Is it too late?" No, it isn't. You don't need to leap. You just need to reach. Whether it's reaching out to a friend, to a partner, to a pet, or simply back to yourself, your body remembers what it's like to feel alive. You just have to give it the signal that it's safe to return. And in the next video, I'll walk with you through exactly how to do that, gently, step by step, whether you're afraid, uncertain, or simply out of practice. I'll show you how to rebuild the bridge toward connection, even if you've been standing on the shore for years. But for now, hold this close. The absence of intimacy is not just a gap in pleasure, it's a message from your body, a call to return, a whisper that says, "You're not done yet." So don't turn away. Lean in. You still belong. You still deserve joy. You still have time.